Similar to Rivian, Lucid also drops their next model year in the middle of this year, which is kind of weird. So you can now officially configure the 2026 edition of the Lucid Air, which I was really excited for because way back when everybody was jumping on the NACS train, they said 2026 was when they would be switching to NACS natively on their vehicles. But of course, Lucid Air, such a high voltage vehicle, couldn't get that much current out of most V3 superchargers. I was desperately hoping that Lucid was going to switch over the battery pack technology to be more like what they did on the Gravity, which is capable of holding an incredibly high charge speed deep into the battery pack, but also has the ability to go over 400 kilowatts with a high voltage station. But I'm sad to say they didn't do that. Honestly, the 2026 model year of the Lucid Air doesn't feel like that big of an upgrade to me. They still have CCS. It's in the exact same place, and the biggest part of the announcement is with now a Lucid official adapter, which is going to cost like over $200, you'll be able to charge at V3 superchargers, you know, the ones that don't have magic docks. And yeah, there are over 23,000 of those that are going to be available, but the sad thing, and this is directly from Lucid, is that these $80, $90, $100,000 sedans are going to charge at those V3 stations at the same speeds as a $20,000 Chevy Bolt. Because they didn't want to mess around with the battery packaging on the Lucid Air, they peak at about 50 kilowatts, which sure, you could argue the Lucid Airs are extremely efficient, so that could technically help them get more miles added back, but still it's going to take an hour to get 200 miles of range into these bad boys, which is such a shame because it's an incredible vehicle otherwise. That's why I'm a bit disappointed, is because I know Lucid has an incredible engineering team and they did a fantastic job on the Gravity. I've been trying to schedule a time to test drive one. I've been communicating with the local showroom and I can't wait to sit in one. I think it's honestly the best EV of 2025 already. So this is an incredibly capable brand with some very, very talented engineers, and they've honestly still got some pretty deep pockets funding them. So I'm frankly a bit confused and wondering why the 2026 model year is such a small update. I mean, they did boost the range of the Lucid Air Touring a bit, so it's now over 430 miles, up from about 420. They've also said they've improved the air conditioning a little bit so that it can cool down the cabin quicker while not using any more energy, and it runs a lot more quietly than before. But there's also a little bit of a price hike on the Lucid Air Pure as well. So overall, a pretty minor refresh if you ask me. I think they simplified some of the configurations. It looks like now there's not even a way to get Dream Drive Pro on the base Lucid Air Pure. You can only get Dream Drive Premium, which essentially just adds some blind spot cameras and gives you some more visibility around the vehicle. It doesn't give you that full-on hands-free driver assist that we were just talking about a few videos ago. If you want Dream Drive Pro, which is a $7,000 hardware add-on, by the way, it's not a software add-on, you gotta spec up to the Lucid Air Touring, which did get a range boost. And honestly, I will give Lucid credit. They have far more reasonably priced color options than Tesla or Rivian, who is comfortable charging $2,000 or sometimes $3,000 more, depending on what color you want, whereas Lucid's just like, yeah, 800 bucks is good. They do have some spicy looking new tire options to choose from, but they eat into your range so much, and I feel like Lucid's such an efficiency brand, I wouldn't go for them. I would still use the cheap, ugly 19-inch wheels, but overall, I just think this could have been so much more. I think they've learned a lot from building the Gravity. Maybe it's very difficult to change the assembly line once it's already in place, and because the Gravity was being built up brand new from scratch, that enabled them to make a battery pack that was so versatile that could hold 220 kilowatts all the way up to 50% at a V3 station. That's fantastic, and that's what makes the Gravity so impressive, but we just really, really wanted to see that in the next model year of the Lucid Air because they're probably not going to refresh the Air again for another 12 months, which means another 12 months of brand new vehicles that cost six figures that are still rocking a CCS connector, and worse than that, even if you have an adapter, they're going to occupy two stalls at V3 stations, which means there's a chance you could end up at one of those superchargers and not be able to charge because of the location of your charge ports. And even if you can plug in, you're only getting 50 kilowatts, which is a joke for the kind of money you're spending on this vehicle. So I still love Lucid. I still love their seats, especially. It looks like they've simplified them as well. Now you just have the option of the 12-way heated seats, or you spend like $3,700 more and you get the 20-way adjustable ventilated seats with massage massage. Those are absolutely worth it, in my opinion. I've tried them myself. Super comfortable, super adjustable, and in the grand scheme of a $70,000 vehicle, it's quite trivial. I would absolutely spec those seats before I add any different exterior color options or even extra sound packages. Genuinely, I would love to buy one, but unfortunately, I cannot afford my own taste, so it's not in my price range. But Nax on the driver's side rear that had the same charging tech as the Gravity, that would have made this my dream car, hands down. Like, road trip machine, you know, getting over 500 miles of range on the Grand Touring and being able to recharge it insanely fast. You were so close, Lucid, you were so close, but maybe it's more complicated than I understand at the assembly line, and maybe they've got some contracts in place with their existing suppliers, and it just makes more financial sense right now for them to keep as much of the Lucid Air the same as possible. But I feel like you have the right to be picky when you're spending that kind of money on a car. You should not have to fumble around with an adapter or have to settle for 50 kilowatts or have to wait in line at chargers, which unfortunately I have seen a lot of Lucids having to wait at EA stations because they're not as reliable. They have fewer stalls and a lot of slow charging EVs clog up the network. So having access to the V3 superchargers is kind of a must for me, but only doing 50 kilowatts is kind of a deal breaker. I'm sorry. But if you are in the market for a Lucid Air, while the 2026 ones are, I'm sure, the best it's ever been, I would frankly recommend buying used or pre-owned. Even from Lucid, they have some really competitive prices now. And as I mentioned in my earlier video, you can pay around $1,000 to update the CPU in those older Lucid Airs to get a more snappy, responsive user interface. On top of that, if you find an older one with Dream Drive Pro, even if it's from 3 or 4 years ago, you still will get that hands-free driver assist functionality at the end of the month, which is kind of epic. So if you're not getting many charger advantages by buying brand new, I would highly recommend buying a used one. You can find them for much, much cheaper, and Lucid seems to be very upgrade friendly towards those older models, which is excellent. Let me know how you guys feel about the 2026 model year of the Lucid Air down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.